Once we have our object built in Blender, keeping scale in mind, and we have a good UV map on it, we can export it. Remember, we're going to be in a unit system of none. And I'm going to export NIF file with PyNifly. And then I will put this in a place I can find it. So it's going to be my small foundation. And then we'll just make sure that we're set to Fallout 4 in the target game. That's it. We'll hit Export NIF, and then we'll open NifSkope. Alright. I'll go ahead and add some textures. I'll add a black speck so there's no real speck. And then we'll select our root node, or our scene root, and I'm going to give the extra data list, I'm going to set that to +2. I have two things I need to add. The first one's going to be the BSX flag. So we'll do block, insert, Bethesda, BSX flags. With that selected, click the little flag, select Havok, editor marker, and articulated. Select the scene root, and in that extra data list, we can refresh, and in the first slot we'll add the ID for our BSX flags. So that's 1. Let's add our collision object real quick. Select the inode, go to File, Import Object as Collision, and import our collision object. Set the material on the BHK nitrile strips shape. I'll set mine to wood. Next we need some control point connectors. So we'll go to Block, Insert, Bethesda, BS Connect Point Parents. This is going to be the second slot in our extra data list. So we'll expand that, and we'll come down here and we'll enter the ID number for our BS Connect Point Parents. Mine's 1. And it should say CPA. I'm going to rename this to floor. For some reason I have it listed as nothing. So in order to do that, I'll select the BS tri-shape, click the little TXT next to the name, and then I'll just fix that. Let's set up our connect points. So we'll select it in the block list, and where it says num connect points, we'll set that to 5. Refresh, and we'll get our 5 connect points. The very bottom one is going to be our origin, but the first 4 we'll go ahead and set. We want to connect to a similar type, so we're going to use P-balcony 01, and it's case sensitive, so capital P dash capital B. And we'll use that for each of our snap points So I'll just put that in there. For the bottom one, this is our origin, so we're going to do capital P dash WS dash capital ORIGIN. Now they're all sitting on top of each other, so we'll select the first one and we'll start positioning them. And where they go is going to be dependent on where your model is. So what we could do is we could just click the little axis here, and then we can move them around. So this one we want, let's see, on the Y. Yeah, so we'll just move it back. And it looks like I want it just outside the collision. So it looks -64 is where I want that. And then I can, and I'm just using my mouse wheel to scroll. So it's probably going to be -180. The next one I'm going to put on the X, so we'll do, yeah, we already know it's 64 from the last one. Now with the rotation, what do we want? Let's say 90? No. -90. Accept. That's 64 and we don't need to rotate it. And we'll accept that. I think this one's on the X. Let's say -64. That's that right there. And I need to rotate it 90. Now for the origin, this really depends on your piece or what you're making or whatever we're making. I'm just going to lower it. I'm going to jump to a side view. And I don't want perspective. Which one is, yeah, I can close that one. Alright, so this is my origin. I'm going to bring it down to, I guess about 30. I want it to be in the ground some. This is entirely dependent on what you want. We have to insert 9 nodes, so what we'll do is we'll select our 9 node, we'll right click, insert, and then 9 node. Where is it? Right here. We need to name this, and this needs to be named very specifically Workshop Component Points. So capital W, capital C, capital P, and it's plural. Workshop Component Points. Make sure it's spelled correctly. We need to add this to our 9 node. So we'll select that. We'll come down to children. We'll set the number of children to +1. So that brings us to 2. And then we'll refresh. And I need the foundation to be down here. And I need my workshop component points to be in the first slot. So I'll double click and I'll hit 4 to bring that there. And then I'll add 1 to bring my workshop component points, my 9 node, into the first slot. with scene root selected, right click in the viewport, sanitize, reorder blocks. Now it should look very similar to this. I'll go ahead and save. And I need to save it in a folder where I can optimize it. So I'll navigate to my optimize folder and my data, meshes, optimize. And then I'll optimize it in Elrich. So let's see. So I got my folder here, and I'll convert my file. If everything goes well, it should be green. And we'll open the Fallout Creation Kit. In the Fallout Creation Kit, let's create our static mesh. I'll do the shack star floor to find balcony, workshop, shack, balcony, floor 01. Yeah. So we'll duplicate that. I'll open it and rename it. I'll give it a new ID. Alright, I'll give it a display name. And then I'll change the model. So I'll navigate to my model. I'll hit OK. For preview transform, the piece that I chose is very similar to my piece, so it should be okay, but you'd have to tinker around with this to match your piece in the workshop preview bar. This window here is not a good representation. I'm happy with workshop, shack, balcony, floor, so I'm going to leave it as that. Then I'll hit OK. I'm not going to create a new form. I'm on a duplicate, so I'll hit no. And yes, I'm sure. Next, I need to create a constructible object. So I'll come over here to Items, Constructible Object. And in the editor ID here in our object window, I'll just right click and do New. I'll give my ID a name, so I'll call it my prefix capital DD underscore lowercase co underscore for Bethesda's constructible object prefix, and then whatever my object is. Alright, so moving on, we'll go to workbench keyword. Here I want to type, at least try to get workshop workbench, so I'll type, and then I'll scroll down to my type. So I want settlement. For my pickup sound, I'm going to say UI star pick, and we'll do pickup wood. I want 3 large, and then I'll do, for the put down sound, I'll just type put and pick the wood 3 large. For my created object, I need to add my object, so I'll do my prefix and I'll find my foundation. I'll leave my created object count to 1. I'll leave my priority at 0. For the recipe filters, I need to come over here. I don't know where they're at. I think it's world data. It is world data. So I'll type recipe filter, and then I'll look for building wood floor. So we'll drag that over into our recipe filter in our constructible object. And the next thing we need is our required items list. So we'll define how much or what materials and how much of them it requires to build our object. I don't remember where that's at, so I'll select all. And up here in the filter, I'll just type C underscore. There's a lot with C, so it might take a second. And then I'm going to navigate down to the component. If it's not in that order, you can hit this right here, just click it and it'll organize it. And I just want to make it cost some wood, so I'll just click and drag that right on over here, and just one wood will do. Now I need to save my plugin. With our plugin added in, loaded up, we can go to our workshop, come over here to structures, wood, and we can find our small foundation. And if everything worked out, we should be able to snap to the edges. And I should be able to scrap them as well. They have collision.